guys, this is Win of Win Creates. Appreciate you guys for coming onto the YouTube page and of course checking out this video. I'm going to actually be doing a few compilations of different styles that we'll be going over as far as hair, skin tones, shading, lighting, things like that. I do appreciate it once more. Like and subscribe if you can, please. I will also include links to all the materials that are being used. Definitely just hang on tight. This video itself was just kind of come out last minute. I haven't really gotten the expertise as far as video editing is concerned, so if you guys definitely have any suggestions for what you'd like to see in future videos or how you'd like to have the setup done, definitely let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, always open to additional feedback to be able to get things rolling. If you see anything, if you're a little bit jarred from it because it is coming from a live video, so it kind of just last minute, just point some things out and just help me along the way. I appreciate any and all feedback, and I'm always open to suggestions of changing things. So thank you guys again once more, and hope you guys enjoy the video. That is Prismacolor pencil Strathmore paper, and I'm also making sure that I'm gonna download this to to my phone devices and things like that, so I can upload this to YouTube. So if you guys miss anything, of course I'll just be able to put it on there, edit all together, and I'll just throw it on there for you guys to see. But I'll have like links to the materials, things like that in place, so that way you guys can be able to purchase what is needed to be able to draw what you need to draw and things like that. But we're going to get started because we want to be able to get this going, and I want to be able to get this done at least within the first 2 hours, because after 9 or 10 it starts to really wane. And I feel like we're going to miss out on stuff. So a lot of people were asking me specifically about how to be able to do specific hairstyles. I was going to do braids today along with the type of hairstyles I have in place, but I decided, it's gonna, pretty much, I won't say too complicated, but there's gonna be a lot that would have to be done for that. And I want to be able to get every single section as far as certain particular hairstyles done, as well as skin tones and lighting and shadowing effects. So being able to do that. So we'll go ahead and we can get started. You said, are there any tips on color? We'll get to that actually. So I have that all down here. We'll just transition as we go from each one. So the first one we're going to start off with is straight hair. And I will be able to also put over the social media mentions of the people of the Muses that gracefully and thankfully were able to provide their services as far as using their images to be the muse in the drawings. So what we're going to do is when it comes to straight hair, we want to be able to make sure that there is a uniformity whenever we're drawing. A lot of times what I'll do is I will get the projector app off of the app store, or you can use any other type of similar type of like projector, whether it's an actual physical one or the one on the Android store, things like that, to be able to draw what needs to be drawn, like outline and trace in essential or essentially what needs to be present. Because perspective is one thing, hair is another, and it gets tedious, it gets hard, and sometimes you want to be able to make it a lot easier for you. So what I did was I was able to draw the faces over here. So we're going to start with straightened hair as well as curls and then froze. So with straightened hair, I said there was a uniformity. You want to be able to make sure that everything is contour lines. Contour means it's just going straight up and down, even sometimes left to right, just, doing this motion when it comes to placing the drawing of the lines that you want into the hair. But we also have to be able to be noticeable and aware of the lighting that comes with the hair. We want to be able to create breaks in the hair to show that it's not all just black. We want to be able to show that there are specific lines, specific streaks, things like that, that would be able to show that it's, a straightened hair. Curly hair is the same way, and we'll get to that as well too. But, we want to be able to make sure that there's a certain motion that it is coming from the roots of her head all the way down to the bottom. And hair itself is not static. It doesn't, just sit in one place. It's going to be moving. So you still want to be able to create that visual that it's moving, even in the piece itself. So what we got right here is I have my friend Amina. She's gonna be the process for this, and I did an outline in a indigo blue Prismacolor. In fact, that's what we're gonna use um, just to give you an idea of what we need to do. So her hair, of course, is going straight down. What I like to do is I like to break apart sections of the hair, starting up at the top, and then the middle, and then the bottom. Dark, white, dark, pretty much, or sometimes light or darkest, brightest, and then darkest again. This middle area right here is where you're going to be able to want to have a lot of your lighting and effects. And sometimes it doesn't all have to be like in the middle right here. It can be going into like a um, diagonal stance. You know, sometimes the light can be shooting down this sort of way, just to show that there are breaks in the hair and to show that the light itself is not just uniform in one area. It's going to go and scatter across every single part or strand of her hair. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to start to draw this out and just kind of give you an idea of what we want. We're going to use the indigo blue because I want you to guys see exactly what it is I'm doing, and then we'll actually use the black pencil to color it in, and I'll show you examples of how we'll highlight the hair and give it that shine. Yeah, the color pencil, this is Prismacolor Pencil. Just so you guys know, Prismacolor Pencil. It's not like the standard Crayola or anything like that, so it's a lot more expensive. At least I would say when it comes to like a full, you know, set. If you want to get it like for $150, you can get like 150 different pencils. So as you can see, I put my hand in place. I sometimes have like a covering so that way it doesn't get on any other type of pieces of paper. And what I'll do is I'll just make my hand move into the motion without moving my wrist. I'll just try to keep it in place and have it where the fingers are pretty much doing the work itself. So we're going to be able to just start to outline this, draw it, and we're just going to go in simple lines and streaks on here. And you don't really see much of anything because we're lightly applying it on here. When it goes down to the bottom is when we're really going to start to go and dig into it. But just to show you guys what it is that I'm doing specifically, um, I'm putting in specific linings on here, and I'm pretty much keeping them close. If you notice, they look like looks like I'm scribbling, but that's not the case. I'm creating the breaks that are eventually going to be there. And as I said before earlier, you want to be able to also sometimes make it diagonal, just to show that light itself is not just one straight line. It breaks. It goes, and sometimes it's up and down. Sometimes it's just diagonal. Sometimes it's in different areas. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just start drawing this in. And I always start closer towards the middle, lightly, because this area you can just go ahead and you can just start darkening it. It doesn't matter. So let's say, for example, let's say I want to start with the actual black itself. Now that you see what I'm talking about, so when I actually do draw it in, you're gonna notice that I'm lightly, once again, applying it. It looks like I'm just creating like a fade in the type of sense, but I'm still making the lines still appear. And sometimes every other like shade that I'm doing so, I might draw like a darker line just to show that, it still breaks in the hair. Sometimes I might even extend it a little bit further. And at times I might even just like make the line just a little bit faint, but then still have it coming all the way down. And some of these you can connect whenever you start to go at the very bottom too. We'll get to everything. So smiles, things like that for sure. But we'll start with the hair first because I know that was the biggest one people wanted to get to. But I'll definitely show you guys how to do smiles as well too. You also mentioned it gives movement and building for dimension. That's correct. Absolutely. What's up, O'Shea? So you create layers and breaks for shadowing? Yes. Everything that you want to do. Me personally, I create layers, I create foundations because I feel like, if you learn not to have to erase multiple times or keep going back and forth between making changes, it lessens the errors, if that makes sense. If you can train yourself to not create so many errors, you won't make as many. And giving yourself a I guess like the availability to not create those errors really helps and benefits your work because now you're just focused on just creating art. You're not focused on, you know, messing up here and there. No problem. Thank you. Absolutely. Do you post your lives? Yes, I will start posting my lives on YouTube. I'm gonna actually post. I'm gonna connect my YouTube page to the TikTok itself, so you guys can follow there. This video itself is actually going to be recorded, and then what I'll do is just another voiceover. I'll edit it, so that way it's a little bit simpler than however long this goes. It's probably going to go on for 2 hours, and I'm not going to make it that long on TikTok. I mean, on YouTube. So as you guys can see, I'm starting to actually do the bottom two as well. Notice how similar, like I did that started, I just started doing little shades and breaks in the hair. We're going to do the same thing over here and just pretty much emulate the same thing, almost like a mirror effect. Now, you want to follow the movement of wherever the hair is going. Once again, you don't want to move your wrist. You don't want to keep doing stuff like this. You want to be able to just start to let the pencil flow into the hair or into the location of where the hair is going. If the hair is going down, you're going to want to follow that too. But you don't need to start scribbling right into it. You just want to be able to just simply fade into that. You don't have to worry about where the breaks in the hair is going to be over here. If there's going to be additional shine, if you want to do that, that's of course up to you. But it's not a necessity. For this, we will be doing so just so I can show you different ways on how to be able to create like that dimension and effect um, that was mentioned earlier. Just gonna do that here. We're gonna do the same thing over on here. And you can actually start to darken it as you get closer towards the edges and the ends. So at the top, we're gonna start to darken that, of course, and near the bottom, we're gonna do the same thing too. Yes, I'm absolutely teaching you guys. So everything that you see on here will be an instruction on how to be able to do so. If you guys can't see it, I know I got big hands. I used to play basketball. I was worse than Stephen A. Smith. But let me know if you guys can't see anything or if you need me to adjust the camera so that way, it can be seen just a little bit more. Um, just definitely let me know. So where was I? So I'm over here. So we're still shading and doing the same thing I was mentioning earlier with the light shade, and we're still making sure it's still in the motion and the movement of where the hair is going. We're not just doing something like this. We have to be able to make sure it's still going in that direction. If it starts to flow out, just start to copy that same flow. It doesn't matter if you mess up, it's fine because you'll fix that error by going back over it. You're going to want to go over the hair multiple times to make sure that it looks like hair. Sometimes I'm focused on a specific piece of the hair or on areas or sections of the hair just to make sure it still looks like it's flowing correctly. It doesn't look like an old PS1 or 2 polygonal type of thing. But yeah, absolutely. So as I'm going on here, I'm just going to quickly shade these in. And notice I actually started, like I said, darken it as I get towards the bottom because this is the areas you're actually going to fill in. You won't have to worry about what we're going to be doing up here. But in the meantime, while we are doing that, we are definitely going to line these out, darken them up just a little bit. Once again, you're going in the motion of where the hair is going. So the hair itself is flowing in several different areas and locations and ways and whatnot. And it's not just limited to just straight hair. This could be the same for curly hair, but curlier hair, when it's in like a flowing motion, is a little bit more difficult. But we'll get into that for sure. Definitely gonna want to do this the same thing here. Whenever hair is to the left or right hand side of the face where it's being covered, sometimes you don't have to emulate what you've done on this side because when light is hitting this person's face directly, more than often the shadow of that person is hitting the hair itself. So we may only need to do the bottom right here where light is exposed. So if her head is going in this way and the neck starts right here, same thing where there's a shadow there, you're going to want to be able to follow that same direction of where the shadow is going. So we're going to be able to want to lightly apply that. This is the area that's exposed, so it's going to have a lot more light, and that's where we can start to add that shine also down here. But you won't have to do too much, so you can actually just cheat your way through and only apply just a little bit. I go live just about every Friday at 6 p.m. Today was just one of those days I had planned and made sure we could do like a tutorial because everyone was asking me on the last live. So this is just the one today, but I'll make sure to upload this to YouTube so that way anybody who's missed anything or um, can't make it to see the rest of it, like it's going to be a long one today. I'll make sure that people can see that on the YouTube itself. Cyber Bunny, you said we don't want that Tomb Raider here. No, we don't want that Tomb Raider pixel triangle polygonal. We don't want any of that. We want it to look like Hideo Kojima went into Unreal Engine for himself and majestically like created it. That's what we want. And it's not always going to be perfect. As I said before, there are going to be times and areas where you're going to draw something and you're not going to like it initially, but sometimes it's less about making sure that it's perfect and more about deceiving or creating deception for the viewer. A lot of people tend to say, oh, well, it looks perfectly fine, while the artist is just eating himself up, just wondering, damn, he doesn't see where I messed up like 46 or 7 times, and that's totally fine. You're just drawing, you're creating artwork, and nobody's the wiser to, what's there or what isn't. So this is a little thing that I like to do. Um, at times, sometimes whenever I'm outlining the hair itself on here and getting everything to form, I will often add like little X's. This is a little technique that they do in the comic book industry for inkers and people after they get it from the penciler. They'll get over to the inker and then they'll just show, okay, this is where the shadow work is going to be. So I don't have to keep filling it out over and over and over. I just hit my goal. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Does your YouTube have tips on realism for beginners? Yes, this will be the actual one that'll be posted. I only have two videos on my YouTube so far. It's an animated video I made of Kendrick Lamar and a little drawing piece I did of one of my friends. But this will be an actual YouTube video for tutorial on how to be able to do. We'll be teaching. I'll be teaching hair. I've got skin tones that we'll be doing down here and shadow work as well as lighting and creating values and different type of areas. And you'll see it. Trust me. So I'm gonna try to see if we can get them all done. Like I said before, the end of today, because right now it's going on. It's only almost 6:30, but I want to get it done at least within the next 2 hours. So I'm gonna be speeding just a little bit, but once I post this to YouTube, I'll just edit it down and just make sure that everything is in place so everybody can see what needs to be done. But yeah, so as you guys can see, we have so far the outlining. We have everything in place as far as what needs to be situated. Down here with the X's is where you're going to want to be able to just start to just fill it in and draw it in. I'll show you guys. In the middle and between here, we've made little areas and spaces where we're going to actually add the highlights that I was mentioning to give it that break in the hair, that type of lineage, that type of that flow. So what we want to do is we're going to actually start to fill it in. So I'm just going to start going forward. When we get towards the edges or the ends right here where the breaks and the highlights are going to be, that's when you kind of want to just be careful not to darken it all so it doesn't look like, it's just black and then white and then black again. We want to be able to let it just flow and fade into the highlights. So at the top, doesn't matter. You can just black it out. Doesn't matter. You can just start going into it. Like put that baby down, if anything. But as you start to get into there, you're going to want to be able to just lightly start to create little lines similar to what we were doing here, but just a little bit off the edge. So as soon as you get towards, you kind of want to lift up your hand or the pressure that you're applying on the paper from the pencil onto the paper itself. We're still going to be able to go back over the outline of the hair itself as far as on the outside, make sure that people can still see it's still hair going from one end to the other. Sharpen my pencil. And I'm just gonna, I don't have a black. Just ran out of glue. Okay. That was embarrassing, so let's do it this way. Now at the edges and ends of straight hair, it doesn't have it where it's like in a cartoon where it's just, a line or just a square. Hair itself is going to fall off and it's going to be at different sizes at the ends or the links of the ends of the links itself. So what we're going to be able to do is we're going to as I'm darkening it down here, it's almost like you're just trying to like run it off the paper where you're just doing something like this. It doesn't look even, and that's totally fine. It's hair. It's not supposed to be even towards the ends. It's just supposed to be able to go into the flow of the hair itself. This isn't Sweetie. No, this is a friend of mine. Her name is Amenah, and she thankfully was able to provide her face for the hair itself, the piece itself. So we're gonna do the same thing on this side. Notice as I'm drawing over here, I'm still going over maybe the same area one, two, three times more, just to make sure that that area is blackened enough. And then at the same time, I'm also still moving my pencil so it's still in the flow of the paper itself and of the hair itself. I'm still creating a little bit of some minimal spaces in between so there's breaks in the hair. I'm just going to keep going further and further. Like I said before, you don't have to worry about if it's like perfect near the ends. We just want to make sure that the hair itself is present, that it still shows up as hair. And if you want to, be specific about certain details, like maybe there's curls at the end. Sometimes you can always add that near the very end itself. You don't have to worry about it too much earlier, but it's always up to you. I'm just going to do this real quick too. It gets so quick and easy to run out of pencil. Like the graphite color, it doesn't matter when you start to actually like darken it out. All right, see. All right, so this is gonna look a little bit crude, but it still does the job of what I was trying to refer to when it comes to the hair and stuff like that. So now we have an idea of where the light's supposed to be. We have an idea of where the shadow's supposed to be itself in different type of areas. This is where you now want to start to go into a little bit more detail. What's up, Tyra? Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you. Glad you could join. So like I said before earlier, hair itself is tedious when you draw it. Sometimes you're gonna have to go over it once, twice, three times more. And now with this, we're gonna be able to want to darken just a little bit of the edges itself. And this time we're actually gonna take our time. So it's gonna take just a minute, actually probably more than a minute. My pencils keep breaking. Let's see. Actually, I'll be right back. So I'm gonna start running out of black, like my bad. Okay, so let's try this. So we're going to want to be able to just go over this a little bit one more time, but this time we're going to try to close the gap between the highlights just a little bit. We're going to start to tightly squeeze in the shadings, the areas over here by once again recreating and mimicking the same line patterns that we were doing earlier. And we're just going to lightly apply it onto what's already available. So now there's a clear difference between over here and here. This is where you want to be at, this is where you're at, and this is where you want to be at. You want to be able to start to just darken the areas, the in between, and make it so that way it looks like there's still those breaks, as you can see, in the hair itself, as well as at the top and the bottom. And then the same thing at the top over here. We're going to do the same thing. And this one, I'm pretty much doing what I was mentioning earlier. The same thing. I'm just lightly applying the pencil onto the paper. I'm not going as hard as I was at the bottom over here. I'm going to just try to lightly apply. Once again, movement of my hand is only locked to the fingers and everything else. I'm not moving my wrist. I'm not moving the arm or the joint or anything like that. Everything is just landlocked to my fingers. So only other time you're really going to need to move is if you need to just, try to get to a different position up here at the top, bottom, things like that. But do you see the difference between what we had previously and what we're now applying now, where it's extending the lengths of the hair as well as creating that effect so that way when we apply highlights, it'll create that glimmer or that glimmer and that shine that we want it to emulate without doing too much. Like we don't want it to look like it's gaudy. We don't want it to look like it's something out of, anime, especially if you're trying to do like realistic hair. You want it to still give that shine, that glimmer without it being like, a freaking disco ball, you know. So now you see the difference. If you notice, there's light appearing in certain sections of her hair. More specifically, it's going to be in the middle, but also near the bottom over here. It lines up with the lighting areas of her face, which is something that a lot of artists don't catch. Is you want to be able to make sure that if you're adding light to a person's face, skin tones, whatever, highlights, things like that, you want to be able to make sure that the light is specific and consistent with every other piece of article of her clothing, hair, things like that. If her hair was just, it was shiny at the top, but then she got a big old bunch of like glow just coming over to the middle, that would be inconsistent. It'd be incorrect because it's like, okay, well, is she standing looking at a, I don't know, maybe like a ring light and she has like a light bulb on top of her, or is it just like one type of thing? There is hair coming or there's light coming in from a direction over here too, but we can only worry about that when we actually apply the highlights itself, which I'll show you exactly what I'll do. He, you said this has been very helpful. I've already struggled with light and shadows. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll definitely show you how as we go, like as we do the curls and fro, you'll see there's different ways of doing things without it having to be, consistent. And the more that you find different ways, the more that you'll be able to expand upon how you draw things. Like you'll be able to go into depth on certain things. Orange beanie. I appreciate it. Thank you. Tyra. I think I said, hey, what's up? All right. So now we can actually start with highlights. So highlights is just white, adding or applying white. Sometimes not enough, or sometimes just a little bit or a minimal amount on here. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to make somebody, like I said, look like they're a disco ball. You don't want to throw too much on person. Less is always more. Subtlety will always trump, all that over detailness. You want to be able to make sure that you just give a little bit of what needs to be there, and it'll make the piece 1,000 times better. So with hair, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to see if we can try to be able to still do those line effects, but now we're going to gently and lightly do it. When it comes to white on this type of paper, it just appears so quickly and so easily, even if you're barely applying pressure to the paper. That's why it's always a necessity to try to at least gently or lightly apply it to the paper. The only other time that you don't want to do so is when you're actually going into the middle where you want the highlights to be showing up as necessarily as possible. And I'll show you. So first we're going to start with the sides first. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to go with the mills and then we're going to move to the side. So as I said before, light in the middle is going to be more prominent right here and over here, where there's less of the shadow and more of just empty space from the paper. Same thing here. So we're going to start with this one, and we're just going to go in the same mode we were doing earlier. Just lightly apply it. Sometimes you can do like longer streaks, like here, just randomly, like maybe this one's short, this one's a little bit longer, this one's shorter again, etc. There you go. That's your highlight. If you want to go in depth and say, hey, maybe she got like Maybelline. Maybe it's not even magic. Maybe it really is Maybelline. Oops. Well, let's see if I can try a different pencil. Sometimes you can just go in the middle and just actually like add in those highlights. Like really throw them shits in there. And then you can go over what you already previously did. So there's that glimmer. There's that gleam, that shine. Is this regular color pencil? No, this is actually Prismacolor pencil. Prismacolor. All right. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Because there are breaks in her hair in several areas, like right here, down here, and over here and here. We're not going to follow just one consistent line. It's going to be multiple ones that are maybe going in different directions, but we're still going to keep that same lightness that we applied over here over on this side. So we're going to just lightly apply lines over in areas like right here. And they don't have to go all the way down. If you want them to, you can, but you won't have to. I don't want to be able to make them separate as well. Sometimes you can add like little tiny ones down at the bottom just to show that the light is still there. I'm going to do the same thing at the top over here. So now you can see where the hair is starting to actually show those breaks. Like I said, if you want to give her some Maybelline, like just give her like some real shine, you can just go in the middle and then just start really going to town and making this like the shiniest it wants to be, you know? Just as long as you're consistent. You don't want it to all be one giant, big old line of, you know, value or highlights in one area and then just start doing the same thing you did up here at the bottom down here. It's not going to make any sense. It's consistent. It's going at least in one direction. It's still hitting the areas and highlights that are on this side as well as near the face and down here. There was shadow that was cutting over in this direction. The light started to actually show up and pop up that way. Yeah, this is yeah, if your regular colors aren't doing that, yeah, it's this is Prismacolor pencil and Strathmore, just so you guys know. And like I said, I'll post this on YouTube and I'll have a link for both products as well as social media links to everybody that's on here. I want to shout them out. Lastly, like I said before, there is light coming in this direction. So like I said, we want to be consistent. We just want to only just create like a little like thin line to the side right here. But you don't want to go all the way around. You don't want to make an outline. You just want to have it kind of like lightly end before the hair ends. So there you go. So that's it for that.